Well, welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Krayden, and thanks for joining us. Got some incredible footage to show you today. It's really phenomenal because what has been happening is that Pierre Poilievre joined a tax protest. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist. An axe the tax protest, not one of his own, but this was a spontaneous protest against the carbon tax. He got out of his car, he joined the protest, he talked to the protesters, and CBC apparently went berserk about this. And then Justin Trudeau went berserk and started ranting and raving about the whole thing. And so we're going to go to that video here right away because they asked Justin Trudeau, what do you think about Pierre Poilievre doing this sort of thing?
Michelle Song with CBC News. Your opponent was photographed posing with anti-carbon tax protesters flying F Trudeau flags. In the video, Pierre Poilievre is heard saying that you are a liar and everything you say is, quote, bullshit. Can we get your response, please?
Every politician has to make choices about what kind of leader they want to be. Are they a kind of leader that is going to exacerbate divisions, fears, and polarization in our country, make personal attacks, and welcome the support of conspiracy theorists and extremists? Because that's exactly what Pierre Poilievre continues to do, not just when you see him engaging with members of Diagolon, but also when he refuses to condemn and reject the endorsement of Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a proven liar and conspiracy theorist who has to pay hundreds of millions of dollars because he lied about the Sandy Hook killing that killed 20 little kids. This is the kind of man who's saying Pierre Poilievre has the right ideas to bring the country towards the right, towards conspiracy theories, towards extremism, towards polarization, towards the kind of lies that Alex Jones is peddling still. So the fact that Pierre Poilievre hasn't stood up to condemn that endorsement, the fact that he continues to encourage the kind of divisive approaches to Canada.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie about...
Now, we'll go back to this in a second, but so what's happening here? We have Justin Trudeau making outrageous comments about this incident. Diagolon? What the hell is he talking about? Diagolon is nothing to do with these protests. This is the mythical group that was somehow tied to the Freedom Convoy. So Justin Trudeau is grabbing this from the air. These people are just protesting his carbon tax. This has nothing to do with Diagolon or anything else like it. So clearly there is an issue here with Justin Trudeau's judgment. And I think this is really what we have to examine here is what is Justin Trudeau talking about? Diagolon? And we're going to watch the actual footage, and you will not see Pierre Poilievre standing behind or in front of any F Trudeau flags. I cannot hear him at any point in the conversation in the protests calling anything bullshit. This is CBC has made this up. This pathetic reporter is trying to create an incident. And really, what is this about? It's about Pierre Poilievre meeting with ordinary Canadians in a way that Justin Trudeau can't anymore because he's so despised He is so on the outs with Canadians that he can't even stand with Canadians anymore without being heckled and without being ridiculed and without being told he's not welcome. So Pierre Poilievre is doing what Justin Trudeau cannot do anymore. And where we go with Alex Jones, Alex Jones was wrong about one issue. He has been right the rest of the time. And he's right about Pierre Poilievre. And Pierre Poilievre does not need to denounce him, does not need to say, oh, I am not going to accept the commendation or the endorsement of Alex Jones because he's a crazy conspiracy theorist. Alex Jones has been right about most of the things he's talked about. And for Justin Trudeau to go on about Alex Jones only reveals his own intellectual deficit and the unalloyed narcissism that Justin Trudeau is all about. So this is clearly an issue. Let's watch a bit more of this and see what actually happened.
Where do you guys get a shower?
Down here.
You guys get a shower?
Yeah, a big shower.
Yeah, this is where I sleep.
I think you're getting the tan, bro. You think getting the tan?
You are getting a tan.
Yeah, man.
So you guys are here 24/7?
Yeah, it went like we had a couple of good days, but
And so when I axe the tax, then you guys are going to be able to go home.
right on.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
That seems like
Can I get a picture of you up beside that?
We'll do it instead in front of something else.
Okay.
You don't want to get them
Going. How about from the front of it?
Have you seen
How about
you see
from
what I
the
do in the House of Commons every day?
We see him kind of answering questions, what we see.
Who is this?
Hold on.
You got her?
Good to see you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks
good
for all
to
you
see
do.
you. Actually speaks words to just stopping him right.
Yeah.
You never thought you would see anything like this.
Yeah,
At
no,
all.
no. That's,
Yeah. Like I said, there's an outbreak of common sense across Canada.
what's that word again?
Common sense.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
We're dusting off that word.
Yeah.
It would
Oh,
collect a
jeez,
lot
that's
of
been gone
dust.
for a long time.
Oh, God bless you, man.
We're going to axe the tax. It's
Yeah.
going to happen. And it's going to be in part because you guys stood up and fought back.
Yeah,
People have had enough. They've been told to sit down and shut up and pay up for
Exactly.
too long.
Yeah.
And that's going to end.
Wow.
Well, we can do another 23 days, so.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. We need a
Well, if we have to stay here till November, I'm staying. My boots are playing.
good old-fashioned Canadian tax revolt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brother.
Right on, guys.
Right on.
Keep it up. And let's bring it home.
Yeah, that's
Thank
right.
you.
Hey, thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
So that's good. But no, we were just one line. I heard about you guys over here.
Hug you because you're a bit cold.
Stellar to this CBC guy. And I saw you, so I told the team to pull over and say hello.
COVID negative, all you hear on the news, but that's
No.
not to be expected.
Everyone's outside. Everyone's happy with what you're doing. And fighting against this tax. Everyone hates the tax. Because everyone's been screwed over. Right?
Oh,
They
yeah.
let people believe his lies. Everything he said was bullshit. Top to bottom. Everything he said was going to help the middle class.
Yeah, so clearly, I don't hear bullshit being said. Poilievre is not standing in front of any F. Trudeau flags. This is an invention of the CBC, which, of course, was designed to prompt Trudeau to go berserk and to start ranting and raving about Alex Jones. And so this is, once again, as I said earlier, this is an clear evidence that Poilievre can meet with ordinary Canadians, whereas Justin Trudeau cannot. Bad news for Justin Trudeau everywhere. Put this story up yesterday. Actually, it came up today in the Post Millennial, my article about how Justin Trudeau is getting nothing out of this budget in the poll. 40% gave it a thumbs down. Only 17% of those polled by Ipsos, which tends to have a bit of a liberal bias, only 17% said they liked the budget. Most people hated it or said it really wasn't going to help them either way, help them or hurt them. So this is not a successful budget. It's playing against Justin Trudeau. And by the way, I put my own poll up, and 2.9 million of you responded. 2.9 thousand, almost 3,000 probably by now responded. 100% that you don't think Justin Trudeau's budget is going to help the middle class, that it's not really designed for anything except boutique programs, a faux housing program, and to balloon the national debt by another $40 billion. That's what this budget is succeeding in doing. So I thank you for everybody who responded to this poll. I think it's fantastic you did so. And we are going to do more polls like this because you're certainly responding. Now I want to go through something that I think is not good news right now, because we are facing the uniparty. And as far as domestic affairs goes, and as far as foreign affairs goes, and I want to show this clip. And this is it's uniparty in the States is the Republicans and the Democrats coming together to keep foreign wars going, to keep the money pouring into Ukraine. And the same thing is happening in Canada with the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party and its allies, the NDP and the Bloc. But there is no debate in this country, in the House of Commons, on whether or not Canada should continue to send billions to Ukraine. But let's look at, first of all, what's happening in the United States.
What took so long to get some of these other 8 Republicans persuaded to your position? Or was it the overall nature of this bill and what was lost in that time period for Ukraine?
Well, that's a good question. You already know the answer. I think the demonization of Ukraine began by Tucker Carlson, who, in my opinion, ended up where he should have been all along, which is interviewing Vladimir Putin. And so he had an enormous audience, which convinced a lot of rank-and-file Republicans that maybe this was a mistake. One of life's most underappreciated talents is to know when it's time to move on to life's next chapter. So I stand before you today, Mr. President, and my colleagues, to say this will be my last term as Republican leader of the Senate. As I said earlier, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. There are many challenges we must meet to deliver for the American people, and each will have my full effort and attention. Bipartisan cooperation and a string of
Maybe this is why we're getting the kind of leadership we're getting in politics. People are staying way past their best due date.
Are you good, Mitch?
Okay, Mitch. Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press?
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's embarrassing to see. But somebody in that kind of physical condition, and that applies to President Joe Biden as well, should not be in office anymore. Is obviously incapable of making rational decisions, and they're not making rational decisions on Ukraine.
Oh, one voting president.
So the Congress and this has voted overwhelmingly to give $95.3 billion to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. $61 billion alone to Ukraine. And watch the reaction here.
I missed it, but thank you. Okay.
Waving flag.
The House will be in order. The House will be in order. The chair would remind my colleagues to observe proper decorum. Flag waving on the floor is not appropriate. The House will be in order.
All right, we'll get to Canada in a minute here, but I wanted to show you a slide about how much money is going to Ukraine. Like they just 95.3 billion, as I just reported, in total to this in this foreign aid package, military assistance package, 61 billion of it to Ukraine. This is just the latest installment. And it is absolutely mind-boggling how much money is going to Ukraine and for what reasons. And this is just the United States here. And we're not even talking about Canada. 113 billion US total money sent to the Ukraine war since 2022. And they're not just paying for weapons. And of course, all of these weapons are manufactured in the United States. So the U.S. is simply dispersing money to the military industrial complex, dispersing money to the armaments manufacturers, which in turn are contributing to a lot of the election war chests of these congressmen and senators who are voting to spend the money. It's a revolving door. Yes, it is. And it is absolutely criminal what is going on here. To sustain a war that is amounting to a slaughter of Ukrainians, this war has been lost already. And you look at some of the things, for instance, that Canada is funding. Now, Canada, it's always a 10% rule. Canada is about 10% of the United States in terms of population, in terms of our national debt, in terms of our annual deficits. Now we're about 10%, almost exactly 10% of what the United States has given to Ukraine, $13.3 billion. And we gave another almost $3 billion to Ukraine in the last budget. And it just goes on and on and on. Let's just read some of these things. Allocation of development funding. This is all going to Ukraine, not to Canada. $50 million for the Canada International Finance Corporation facility for resilient food systems. We are telling farmers in Canada you can't use fertilizer. We're strangling agriculture in Canada, but we're somehow doing our best to enhance it in Ukraine. Once again, just like the United States, Congress is not interested in securing its southern border in the United States, but of guaranteeing the integrity of the Ukrainian border. So Canada is not interested in helping Canadian farmers, but Ukrainian farmers are a different matter. $10 million for reinforcing essential mental health services. Yet we're cutting off mental health services in Canada. We're cutting off that kind of disability. $10 million supporting local development and reconstruction efforts in Ukraine's Hamerdas. $4 million support the Ukrainian reform in government. And this is a government that is authoritarian. They just canceled their presidential election. What kind of hypocrisy does that amount to? New contributions for a total of $22.5 million from our commitment of $352.5 million. $10 million for the World Food Program to support immediate food needs through in-kind food assistance, multi-purpose cash assistance, and humanitarian logistics. $5 million for the United Nations Refugee Agency. $4 million for the Ukraine Humanitarian Fund, $3.5 million for the International Committee of the Red Cross to provide protection, emergency relief, and other essential services and to promote international humanitarian law. $4 million building counter-nuclear smuggling capabilities. $4 million gender-inclusive demining for sustainable futures in Ukraine. I don't even know what the hell gender-inclusive demining is. I don't think the Liberal government, I don't think Justin Trudeau knows what that is. $2.5 million community-based protection and effective civil-military engagement in Ukraine. $2.4 million demining sustainability support. It just goes on and on. $2 million rescue and resilience for Ukrainian civil society. German Marshall Fund. What is that? $1.5 million Geneva International Center for Humanitarian Demining Support Program for Ukraine, in addition to the previous gender inclusive. And on and on and on and so forth. We are spending billions in Ukraine, and as a result of this, as a result of spending billions in Ukraine, we're creating inflation in Canada, and we're ballooning our national debt and our annual deficit, just as the United States is. There's a problem with priorities here, and it's because there's no debate in the House of Commons about this. So I started off this episode today by applauding what Pierre Poilievre did by joining a carbon tax and being a human being and demonstrating that he's an ordinary Canadian too. He needs to take a second look at the Conservative Party's slavish support for Ukrainian assistance, for keeping this war going, because it's only keeping the coffers of the military-industrial establishment full, and it's only killing Ukrainians as the war grinds to its inevitable conclusion of Ukrainian defeat. And in the process, as we continue to provoke this war, as we continue to pour money into the black hole of Kiev, what do you think is happening? We are getting closer and closer to a nuclear war, closer and closer to putting NATO troops on the ground in Ukraine, where they will be in direct opposition to Russian troops. And when that happens, folks, when shots are exchanged, when armaments are exchanged between Russia and NATO, we are at war, and that war will very quickly escalate into a nuclear confrontation. This has been the conclusion from day one, when we decided to stick our nose into this conflict, and NATO decided it was going to do something about this. It was going to let the Ukrainians fight the war, but we'll finance it until the bitter end, until the last Ukrainian body is dead. Now, that is not only a sick way of fighting a proxy war, it is a surefire way to inevitably ensure that Canadian, British, French, or American troops eventually land up in Ukraine fighting Russian troops, and it goes from there. This is a recipe for catastrophe. I've said that from day one. We need a ceasefire in Ukraine. We need to stop the war. We need some sanity. And we need to stop spending tens, hundreds of billions of dollars to keep this war going, because it is doing nothing. Because the money is not just going to the armaments industry. All of this other administrative assistance we're giving Ukraine is going into the pockets of corrupt politicians, oligarchs, and people like Volodymyr Zelensky, the president, who is buying yachts, mansions, and stuffing it into Swiss bank accounts. That's where our money's going. And that's what we've got to stop doing. So congratulations, Pierre Poilievre, for dropping in on a carbon tax protest. I applaud you for that. Good work. Please take another look at your support for this war in Ukraine and your insistence that a conservative government will continue to support this war and will continue to give billions of dollars away. We need better. We need to do better. Thanks for watching today, folks. Please watch this brief message. Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the Krayden'S Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, you've watched it all. And that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the Krayden resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the Krayden'S Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also